Hey there, and welcome to the live Q&A session that we're doing today. I'd like to thank you all for joining me, wherever you may be. Today's session with myself, Audrey Wilson from Whispers Through Light and from Resonant Essentials. I'm going to answer some questions that some lovely people have submitted, and I've got some very good questions here. And I really feel that with any form of development, it's really important that you ask questions. There's no point in sitting still and hoping that somebody else is going to ask the question, or just keeping quiet and plodding along, and at times struggling because you're not quite understanding where you are, and it doesn't feel like you're doing what other people do. So asking questions is never being a nuisance to anybody. Asking questions is always good. Asking the same question repeatedly, maybe not so good, but asking questions, as far as I'm concerned, it's a case of if you don't ask, you don't get to know a lot of the times. And often, as a tutor, if we're taking a large group and everything is rolling along, you look round and you see somebody with a blank expression or even a puzzled face, and you know they're not quite getting where everybody else is going. So for me personally, what I would do is I would step out a little bit and go and talk to them and say, okay, what you stuck with, or what aren't we understanding, or whatever. I would never drag anybody out and shout at them across the room and say, what's the matter, what don't you understand? I would never do anything like that. I've seen it done and it's not nice, and I wouldn't like it done to me either. But you go and you work quietly with somebody and you help them to understand in language that they understand, and that's often the key. With this work we do as mediums and as healers, we use jargon, and not everybody understands our jargon. We have to be aware always that there are people who don't understand what we're talking about. I mean, if I went to a workshop which was also covering media and how to use it, I would have a permanent blank face the whole way through, because as soon as they started talking techie stuff, I would just be the dinosaur in the corner, never mind the elephant. And sometimes it's about using words that people understand. So hopefully today I'll be able to clear up some of those things for you. And I've got quite a selection here of questions, and I have written them down in the order that I received them. So, and that's how I'm going to work with them. But I've had to write them down because with the best one in the world, I wouldn't be able to keep all of these in my head. So if I keep looking down, just know it's because I'm glancing at my bullet notes, so to speak. So the first question I want to address, and I will just remind everybody, everybody that's asked the questions will remain anonymous. I'm not going to give names. People have spoken to me in privacy or emailed me in privacy, and I will respect that privacy. So the first question that we're going to talk about, and that I'm going to answer as best I can, is how do you combat exhaustion after having a heavy workload, or doing a lot of energy clearance? Energetically, what's happening? Well, first of all, you should never do hours and hours and hours of work without taking a break, regrounding yourself, rebalancing, as it were. It's very easy when you're in that zone of work to just keep working. And if you're at a live event or at a psychic fair or a workshop or whatever, and you're there to do a specific thing all day long, it's important that you realise that you don't have to take one after the other after the other after the other, because you aren't doing them any favours and you're not doing you any favours. It's important that you step out of that energy and don't immerse yourself in it all day long, because that doesn't serve you, doesn't serve your clients, and all that happens is it will wipe you out. And I speak from experience, because in the early days, particularly when you're all just out there doing this magical, wonderful stuff, you get all excited and it's all you can think about and it's all you want to do. So you want to do it all day, and if you're not doing it all day, you want to talk about it all day. And I coined, for me, the term psychic indigestion, because that's what it gives you. It affects the solar plexus. It really does work that solar plexus hard when we're working with spirit, when we're working with our healing vibrations, no matter which energy we're working with. So tip 1, keep a glass of water there and take sips of water. Tip 2 for me would be to make sure that I was fully grounded before I started work. That I would make sure that I'd spoken to my spirit guides, my team, my co-op, whatever you want to call them, and created the intention of what we intended to do that day. If it was an appointment-based system, I would make sure that when I got there, I'd allowed myself breaks between appointments and not literally doing one person after another. And one of the reasons for that is everybody has a different energy. So if you're not stepping out of it and recharging somewhat, you are literally bouncing through everybody's energies, so that by the time you get to the end of the day, you've felt everything. There's no wonder you're going to be worn out. Energetically, what's happening is we start to go from the spirit down to the psychic and stay down in the psychic energy much longer than we stay in the spiritual energy. And the psychic energy, remember, is an energy of the living world. It's the energy around us and within our auras. And we use that energy to build and strengthen so that we can reach the more subtle energies of the spirit world, so that we can work to our full capacity, as it were. So we need to give ourselves breaks. One of the simplest ways to ground yourself between clients is to wiggle your fingers and toes, because in doing that, you're actually bringing the hemispheres of the brain back into alignment with each other. You're not doing all the right brain work. You're bringing the left hemisphere back into play. And that is a way of grounding. Failing that, get up and walk around, take a sip of water, go and stand outside if you can, get some fresh air, or simply sit quietly away from everybody and just close your eyes and simply be present in that moment with your feet on the ground, feet on the floor. And those are the things that will help you from being exhausted, being worn out, tired the next day, even headachy. It's amazing if we don't use self-care, how much the subtle energies and working with them can be of an effect. Not all the time. And it sounds a bit like a bit of a doom and gloom thing, but it's not. It's a simple mistake that most of us make at some time. We cannot work 9-10 hours straight without a break. Do you know what? If you worked in Walmart or Asda at home in the UK, you'd get a break, and if you didn't, the unions would be in and there'd be trouble. It'd be classed as slave labour, really. So why would you do it to yourself? If you went to work somewhere and were paid to work somewhere, you would expect a tea break, a lunch break, whatever. So why not give yourself the same advantages? Why not give yourself those breaks that you need? And I think you'll find that you will be able to not only work stronger in the sense of there'll be more clarity and more intention in what you're doing. And a lot, you know, you hear us all use that word a lot, intention. And the intention that we set in our work is really, really important. It's one of the major key things that we need to do. We need to be clear, we need to be precise, concise, and we need to have an intention about what we're doing. So I hope that that's helped you, lovely lady that asked me that question. I hope that it's given you some thought, and maybe helped you learn what not to do. Because sometimes, do you know, the best lessons we learn are what not to do. And it's just, often it's just simple things. Don't be that enthusiastic that you're wearing yourself out, because we don't want that. We want happy, gentle workers full of light and full of energy. That's what we're wanting. We don't want this couch potato that's trying really hard to get off the sofa today but can't because they worked yesterday. Doesn't help. So I hope that's helped you there. And the next question I'm going to address, which is a very interesting one, I think. This question is about when or when not to use our gifts, to apply our knowledge of spirit or with spirit. You know, we develop naturally, but we also develop through working with others, in groups, in circles, in workshops. The gift we have is natural, in the sense of nobody can put it there. You can't take a tablet and you know, suddenly become, you don't get a uniform that says, now I can do this. We don't get that. We have these abilities, and sometimes what happens is they will blossom on their own, and then we will go and find a group of like-minded people and a tutor or a mentor or a circle leader that we can feel comfortable with, and we join those circles, and then through all the exercises that we do, we learn to control the energy that we're using. We learn to work to our best advantage and not be bouncing all over the place. And as time goes on and people get to know who you are, if you've chosen to work with spirit for people, whether it be through healing or through mediumship and psychic work, there may well be times when, although you are sensing certain situations, or you have somebody who is yet again demanding another session with you about the same subject, really, or they want to know things that legally are not ours to talk about. For instance, here in the UK, we cannot discuss legal matters because we're not trained solicitors. We can't give medical advice, not that I would want to, because we are not trained doctors or nurse practitioners. And there are other things that would be wrong to talk about, unethical, immoral, whatever you want to call them. I mean, I don't ever predict the sex of a child. I never have, and I never will. Because let's face it, we've got a 50% chance of getting it right, whether we're psychic or not. But it's not for me to say, because what I've got is, I've got spirit telling me that there is a child to come into the world. But then what I've also got is the hopes and dreams of whoever it is who may have 3 boys and he's desperately wanting a girl, or vice versa. And their hopes and dreams can sit so strongly in the aura that we can pick that up as living energy. So what we're actually picking up is somebody's deepest desire to have that sex of child, to have that girl and not have another boy. We're not in a position to be that sort of messenger. That's not what we're about. So yes, there are times when we shouldn't use our work. We also shouldn't, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, I don't think it's right to walk up to people and suddenly start giving them a message. I know they do it on telly. I know they do all this other stuff. I don't like it. Because if you come to somebody for a reading, if you go to have a reading, then you are giving that reader permission to work with your energy and with your spirit people, with your loved ones in spirit. By going and making that appointment and turning up for that appointment, you are giving permission for that to take place. Other than that, you haven't got permission. It's not right. It's intrusive, it's rude, and it's unethical. Nobody would like it if you turned up at their living room windows with a big camera and started taking photographs of what went on inside their house. They wouldn't like it. They wouldn't like it if you caught their mail and opened it and read it. So why would anybody think they can just go up to somebody randomly and start giving them a message? It's wrong, in my opinion. Other people have to do whatever they feel is right, but in my opinion, I would never advise that anybody does that. And sometimes the information, this is one of the key things, sometimes the information that we are privy to, there wouldn't be the words to say it in the right way without causing pain, suffering, or fear. And that's not what we're about. For instance, you might connect with somebody who has a member of their family very, very ill at this moment in time. And your sensations, your feelings, your awareness might be telling you that it's not going to end well. But you have no concrete confirmation of that. Because A, we're not diagnosing. B, we're not suggesting any form of treatment. So how can we? We haven't got their medical notes, and unless you're a doctor, you wouldn't know what they meant anyway. So as far as I'm concerned, at that point, you could say something along the lines of, I know they've been walking a very difficult path, or something of that nature, which is not negating the situation, but the fact that their spirit people have brought it to your attention means that they are helping and they're working on that situation. So in all truthfulness, you could say that. But you couldn't say, oh dear me, I don't think it's going to end well. That would be absolutely wrong. So at that point, we wouldn't use that gift in that way. And the other thing that is really important about when and if we work, if you are not feeling 100% in yourself, it will be more difficult to work. If you have physical pain in your body, that will knock your concentration levels. And I know spirit lift us up and help us work, and they've done it with me many times, when maybe I should have been wrapped up in bed feeling sorry for myself, but we get up and we work, and then afterwards we don't feel very well and we go back to bed. And that's our choice to do. But over the years I've learned that if I'm really not right, then I need to say, I can't work today. And I now no longer have any qualms about changing appointment schedules if I don't feel that I am up to par to work. Because I don't want to do half a job. I don't want to do a mediocre job. I need to be able to work as best I can. Because I have a duty to spirit to do that, and also to my clients. So if I know that I'm not going to be much use that day, then it would be right not to apply them. And another time I won't apply them is when you're inundated with messages in your messenger inbox or on your texts or something else. I came to see you 5 years ago and you told me about this. Could you tell me what happened now? Well, no, I can't, because I don't even remember who you are from 5 years ago, but I'm not anyway. Because if you're in my messenger inbox, then you're in my Facebook, and that's my personal space as much as my living room is, to a certain degree. But people will let you become their personal advisors if you choose to fill that role. And I won't do that. I also don't think it's right for people to come to regularly. If they're coming every 2 or 3 weeks, then there's something not right about that. And they don't want the help of spirit. They want a prop. They want somebody to help them make decisions in their life, and that isn't our job. That's not what we do. So I hope that that's helped with that question in the answers there. You know, be discerning with your energy, with your light, and with your beautiful gifts. Be discerning. Use them wisely and use them carefully, and it will bring joy and it will bring light to other people. So I hope that's helped answer that question for you. And the next question I'm going to answer is from a lady who feels that at the moment her energy is blocked within development, that she's not moving forward, she seems to be blocked. And how do we remove those blocks? Well, first of all, we have to look at what's caused the blocks in the first place. And oftentimes, what you think is a block actually isn't. It might be a plateau where things are just settling still. It's not a block. What it means is we've come this far, we've stepped to this place, now we're going to get used to this, and then we'll take the next steps up. But you know, it's not a race. You don't have to run up the stairs. I couldn't run upstairs if life depended on it, but that's another matter. Who wants to run upstairs? Not many people. It's about building your gift, getting used to it, stepping up another, and it's that slow and steady wins the race. Now, there are some people whose gift just blossoms very quickly, or seemingly very quickly. It will have been preparing to do so for a long time, very subtly, without people actually noticing particularly. Because I believe that our development, our gift blossoms when it should, not when we think it should. It blossoms when we're ready, and not a moment before. So we have to look at whether that block is actually a block, or whether it's a plateau, whether we've come to a stage where we need to get used to it the way it is. Now, I understand the need to learn more. I understand the need to move forward. But we've got to learn to use what we've got. And when we've mastered that, then we can take on the next step. You would not send a child into kindergarten and a month later expect it to be graduating from a university. It wouldn't happen. And neither should your development with spirit. We have to take time to learn about our energy, about the way that we work. We have to have time to get used to working with our spirit guides. Some of them stay, some of them move along. You never know until you're working with them. You know, some of us have guides that stay all of the time. Some have ones that drift in and out to help at a certain point, and then they move on. And that's the way of life, and it's like that. Life is like that. Some of the lessons you learn from some teachers will stay with you a lifetime. Other teachers, you'd be hard-pressed to remember the names, some of them. They'll have had to have had an impact on you in some way to remember all of them. So what happens is, when you think you're stuck, you're actually not. What you should be doing is working at that level, getting used to that, because all of our development is about repetition. We don't learn anything in the first go. We've got to keep doing it. We've got to keep going and going and going and going. And do you know what? After over 30 years, I still learn things. Every time I work, I learn something. Every time I do something different with my guide, it's like, yes, another victory. Yes. I still get as excited now as I did the first time it happened. You know, and that's as it should be. This work is a work of patience. It's not a race. If you have got a block and you're not moving forward because energetically something isn't working properly, that's a block of energy. There could be many reasons for that. It could be frustration. causing a mental frustration because you're not moving as quickly as you want to, or because you've seen how somebody else works and why don't I work like that? Well, you don't work like that because you work like you do. And if it's similar to somebody else, fair dues. If it's not, fair dues. You're working as you do, not as somebody else does. It could be that there are issues in the family, that you're not getting the time you need, that you're busy with other things. And when I say issues, I don't mean negative stuff. It could be that you're busy with projects, with family members, with friends. You haven't got the time you need to devote to sitting properly. It could be that you've already overworked spiritually and overused your energy, at which point all you need to do is rest. It could also be because physically you are unwell. It could be that physically, because of health situations, your energy is depleted. And so that will cause like a stagnation, I suppose. It's like just standing still. It's a bit like the clock ticks, but the hands don't move. So you can hear the clock ticking, nothing else is happening. So there are so many different ways to approach this, and without sitting and talking one-to-one with somebody, I would not even begin to say, oh, it's a this, or it's a that, or it's a that, because I would need to work with them energetically. I wouldn't be able to make an assumption, and I won't. How do you remove it? Well, it depends how it's got there, doesn't it? We either have to be patient because we're at the place where we've got to get used to the way things are now, we've got to get used to how far we've come, and prepare for the next levels by working this level very well. We've also got to find time, make time, create time for that moment. And even if it's only 10 minutes out of your day, that moment sitting within that spiritual power will keep your energy moving and growing, and spirit will still be there. They'll be working with you. If it's through lack of physical health, then you would need to seek medical advice for whatever the issues are and follow their advice. And for a lot of people like us, it's very difficult to do that because we don't always do the orthodox medicine route, and we like to find different potions, and I know there are some very good holistic medical treatments out there. I don't think I'm using the word medical's quite right, but optional treatments out there. But those are your decisions. I certainly wouldn't tell anybody to use a specific product. I would always say, go and speak to somebody who is medically qualified to help you. And if you don't want to take their advice, then don't, but at least find out what it is that's going on. And if you have just plain worn yourself out, then you need to stop doing that. It's that simple. Stop doing it. Stop doing it. Now, energetically, if you've got stuck and everything's slow and out of balance, then you could go to a reputable energy healer who can help you rebalance, or you could sit and do your own cleanse with energy, with light, re-energize the chakras and work that way with it. Give yourself a good cleansing through and start to work with it. But the first thing is to find out what is it actually. Is it a block or is it a plateau? And after that, you can take it from there. And it will lead you, once you get it worked out, it will lead you towards whatever your full potential will be. And when we talk about full potential, I can maybe pick up snippets about what abilities you may have, you know, an appraisal, I suppose you would call it. I can pick up on some of those abilities and pick up on the ones that would best work with you as the soul that you are and with the guiding team that you've got. But it would be wrong of me to say to anybody, you are this, you are that, you are that, you are that. Because I could actually be putting blocks in somebody's way. Because it may well be that I've picked up on those things but missed out on something else which would have been equally marvellous and wonderful. So asking what is full potential really is asking me to put a limit on you, because I can't do that. It would be easier for me to say, I don't feel that you should go in a particular way, than to say you must develop this because it's marvellous, because you mustn't if you don't want to. Remember, you have that free will. Remember, you can choose if you don't want to take a path. What you can't do is force something that at this time in your life you're not able to manifest into reality through your development. That doesn't mean to say that 5 years, 10 years down the line, that won't become a part of your little workshop bag of gifts. It's all part and parcel of right time, right place. And it really would be wrong of me to put a limit and say, no, don't waste your time doing that. Waste of time. Because it's just not right just now. I mean, say it will come in later. Don't ever accept limits on that level. Don't give yourself limits. Don't close doors on yourself before you've even started. That would be a terrible shame, I think. So I hope that's helped answer some of those questions for you. Lovely lady that sent me those. And I got another lovely question here, and the question was, how do I know when spirit is with me? And this particular lady meant that sometimes she doesn't really feel them, but she talks about them and she knows what to say about them, but she can't actually say that she really feels them. Now, this word feel sometimes is not used in the right context within our work. If you are a masseur or a reflexologist, that type of holistic therapy where you're using touch, then obviously you are feeling the vibration through your touch of the energy field in whatever particular part of the body you're working on, and it lets you know. The tension in the skin will let you know that something's not quite right in that area. But when we talk as mediums about feeling somebody there, what we mean is sensing. And even as a clairvoyant or a clairaudient, our sensing comes in quicker than the rest of it. And sometimes these sensations are very, very subtle. And what I often find happens for me, and it may work for you, excuse me for moving around a bit, I'm just getting a bit comfy, or not, as the case may be. What I find is I sometimes get thoughts about a memory from my life. I might think about my brother who's in the spirit world, so at that point I already know that the person that's coming to me probably has links as a brother or brother-in-law, may well have the same name as my brother, or there'll be a similarity of some kind. Because what spirit will do is they will use your memories to help jog you into that energy further. So we're expecting to feel this big rush of energy and this big lovely man standing there and all bells and whistles, when in actual fact it's often subtle little mind thoughts that come in, and that is our senses, because what's happening is, as spirit coming close to that energy with us, our energy recognizes something familiar, and our mind brings up what that familiar thing is. So it's not saying my brother's here. What it's saying is, look at the memories you have and apply them with the other information that we're about to give you. This is the route we're travelling. And that's how it begins to work. You can also get really hot, physically feel really warm, or the complete opposite. You could feel like you're at the Antarctic with some penguins or whatever else. You may get a perfume, a smell, and often that will remind you of a specific person. For me, for instance, one of the things that I get, and I will share this with you, is if I have young children in spirit that are connecting with their family, I will always get a picture in my mind of snowdrops. And that lets me know that I've got a child in the spirit. And that's been with me from when I first started working. And in Scotland, particularly in the north of Scotland, people don't always put snowdrops in their gardens because they grow quite naturally in the cemeteries. And they always say they're cemetery flowers for the little children, and they won't grow them in their gardens. So when I see snowdrops, I know I have a child in the spirit world. But it's the sensation of that child's energy that's created for me that step into. You know, if you smell a certain aroma, I mean, if you smell a certain food being cooked, it will instantly make you think of a specific person who was good at cooking that, or was bad at it, but you had to pretend it was good. But there'll be a memory there, there'll be something that comes from that aroma. And that's how it works. Now, sometimes, you know, there's that old saying, somebody just walked over my grave. Well, actually, they haven't. They've stepped through your energy field, but I understand the analogy there. So there are so many ways. You might get an ache in a part of your body, and that will be an ache belonging to whoever it is in spirit. It will most likely be connected to them. So it sounds a bit like a minefield when we talk about this, how do I know when there's somebody there? And it sounds like a bit of a minefield when you're doing your messages, but you know what? It is the most natural thing on this earth. And with the help of your spirit guides, of your team of workers, you will soon find the way that you work, the way that you assimilate information, the way that you associate particular imagery to stimulus. It's for each one of us to find our way through that. I suppose the best tip where that would be concerned is don't discount anything, because do you know what, I have a really good friend who is a spirit artist, and she draws spirit loved ones and spirit guides and things of that nature, and she loves giraffes. She absolutely loves giraffes. So if for any instant at some point in the future I'm still here and she's not, which if that happens, I hope it's not for Lord knows how long, lots of years anyway, hundreds of them, that would be good. If I get a giraffe coming through, I'm going to know it's there. Or if I was doing a reading for her and suddenly I'm seeing a giraffe, I'm going to know that somebody wants to talk to her about her love of things or whatever. But if you get what I'm trying to say to you, use the stimulus, use it. Accept it and learn to work with it. Find your own language within your work. So I hope that that's helped answer that question. And then I've got another question here, which was put to me this morning. I've got two, actually. And it is, why do so many people think that family and friends are their guides? Well, that's an interesting one, because I do know some people who do feel their family around them, and I think, well, that's really good, because, you know, just like they would have cheered you on here, they're still doing so from the spirit world. But I question whether they are fully guides, in the sense of the knowledge required to work with us is such that, you know, my mum hasn't been there long. She's not been there long enough to know all of that stuff. I know they say they've got no time over there, but I think they come in to help. I think they come in to cheer us on, and I think they like being in our energy as well. But I would never say that a member of my family is my guide. I would say they're a helper, because they're helping. But my guides are here for their specific roles, and always have been. And I can't imagine my mother coming in. In fact, it would be a disaster if she did, because she was very plain speaking, so it might not go too well. But there we go. I'm sorry. Please, mother, don't come. But, you know, the next part to that question is this, and it is a bit of a bugbear for me, this one. Does it really matter who our guides are? If they are working truthfully for spirit and in that light, and their intention is to help us here understand about life eternal, does it matter what they actually did when they were on this earth? Does it matter if they're a famous Indian chief, or whether they're a blacksmith from round the bottom of the road? Does it matter? I don't think it does. But I think for people here, it becomes a bit like a medal. And it becomes a bit like, my guide's bigger than your guide. Well, what do you do? Because my guide's happy working with me, and I'm not really bothered what your system is. Whoop-de-doo. But it happens, and you see it happen time and time again. And I think if you put as much effort into actually working with them as you do about talking about them, there'd be no stopping you. So if you have got friends and family around, and they're helping you and they're assisting you, I think it's absolutely wonderful that those bonds of love have continued on, and are helping you in the work that you're doing now. But don't discount others just because you feel the presence of family. Let those other guides, whose specific job it is to work with us, do their work. So I hope that that's answered that question for you. And I've got one more question here, and this has come from somebody who does actually work for spirit. They are a worker. They're quite well on with the work that they do, and they're asking, when you work with people, what do you do when they won't accept the answer that you're giving them, and they simply reword it and throw it back at you again and again and again? Are they really confused, or is it ego because they want a specific question answered and they want a specific answer? So, well, it could be that they're not getting what the explanation is, the answer is. They don't understand it. So they're putting it in another way, hoping that they're going to get some clarity. That could be about 20% of the time. The other 80% of the time is because they're asking a question because they want a specific answer. And if you're not giving them a specific answer, they're going to find a way to give you the question again until they get the answer they want. Now, a good and honest worker will not play that game. We won't. We will not feed you an answer just because it's the one you want. I certainly won't, and I would very much doubt that the person who asked me that question would either, and that most of the people I know would actually say, I'm sorry love, but that's not going to be the answer you're going to get, because it's just not there. And if they want to go away and pout about it and never come and see you again, well, so be it. But giving them the answer they want isn't helping them, and it's certainly not helping you. It's negating your energy, it's pulling it down, as far as I'm concerned. And we have to have integrity in our work, without any shadow of a doubt. Even if you don't like the answer you've got to give, and let's face it, like it or not, we have likes and dislikes, we're all the same, we're all humans. And it might be that you would rather not give the answer you've got to give, but you've got to give it, because that's the only one you've got. So, and if you can't answer honestly, then you shouldn't be working. And if the answer is simply, I don't know, then that's what you tell them. I'm sorry, I can't answer that question because I haven't got any information on it. Nobody has brought up that subject to me. Nobody is responding to me now, so I'm sorry, I can't answer that question because I don't know. Because we don't know everything. And although we have access to wonderful, wonderful information, we will never know everything because we're not meant to. And there are things I believe in this world that we're not meant to know the answers to. For varying reasons. I believe that if you're meant to have an answer, you'll find it. It will come. And if you're not meant to have an answer, it doesn't matter how many doors you knock on, you're not actually going to get the answer. So, and the other thing you could say at that point is, if you really don't want the answer, don't ask the question. So if you've made your mind up what reply you want, don't bother asking a good medium or psychic the question, because you're not going to like the answer. And if you're not ready for the answer, don't ask the question. So, to sum that up in some sense, you need to be really certain when you go for a reading, particularly if you've got specific questions in mind and you're not just looking at having a session with spirit. Be really certain of what you want to know about. Be really certain that you are willing to accept the truth as it is given to you. You know, that old saying, be careful what you ask for. So I would like to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to answer some of these questions for you all. I hope that you've enjoyed listening, and I will put it out there again, and we'll have another session in a while. I just thought it would be nice to do something a little bit different, and if it's helped some of you along, that's great. If not, I hope you've enjoyed listening to me, and I will see you all again soon. So take care. Bye bye.